I'm with Heidi Malizia. Heidi has volunteered to participate in our Ask a Scientist project. Heidi, thank you so much for volunteering an hour of your time to answer people's questions. And the topic you're going to cover at another time will be how to become a marine biologist. But right now, what I want to do is give people a chance to get to know you. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hi, I am Heidi, and I'm a marine biologist, and I specialize in cetaceans. So that's whales and dolphins, and I mainly do field research. So I collect data on the whales and dolphins from either a big ship or a plane or a small boat.
Okay, so what's your education? Where did you get your education?
Yes, I actually grew up in Missouri, and I went to the University of Missouri for biology, and I minored in captive wild animal management. So because of my minor, I got to intern at an aquarium during my uh, undergrad, and that really helped to develop my passion for marine species. So I got some really cool hands-on experience with sea turtles and sharks and stingrays. And from there, I also got to study abroad for a summer in Australia, and I got to travel around and do different field research projects at different islands along the Australian coast. So from there, then I started doing internships in marine biology right out of college, and that's where I got my experience with dolphins and whales. And through those internships, those opened doors where I got a job, and then that opened some more doors, and I got another job. And um, the more people you meet and the more experience you get, kind of just led me to where I am today.
So, where are you today and where are you when you work?
When I work, I am usually in the Gulf of Mexico or the East Coast of the United States. So I've actually worked kind of all over the world. I've done some work in the Mediterranean. I've done some work in the Caribbean, in the Bosphorus. But the last about 5 to 7 years, I've been mainly in the Gulf of Mexico and the East Coast of the U.S.
Okay, so Gulf of Mexico is off the south coast of the U.S. So, just for people that may not be in the U.S., since you're going global
Yes.
in your program. Okay, so you got your education, you've been all over the place. Um, what do you do?
So I collect data for whales and dolphins, depending on the type of project, and then they go to the hands of some PhDs, some doctors who then write research papers on them. But the data that I collect is mainly two sorts of data. So I do assessments. So if you look at a map and you'll see that bottlenose dolphins are kind of all over the world, or sperm whales are in certain areas of the Gulf of Mexico and the East Coast. The surveys that I do help to kind of define those areas. And then I also do targeted surveys on a specific species. So I've done a Brutus whale survey where we are strictly finding information on their behavior and what they're eating on just that species of whale.
Okay, so out of all the species that you've ever worked on, do you have a favorite?
No, it's so hard. Um, I love them all. I think my favorite species to see in the wild are killer whales. Um, they're definitely the most entertaining. But then I also love seeing large whales. I just recently saw my first northern right whale, and that was just a phenomenal experience. I got to see two of them from a plane, and just to know that that's a species that may be extinct within my lifetime or the next generation, and to get to see them and see them in the wild was just breathtaking.
And you said you were in a plane. Now, most people
Yes.
probably don't realize when you say you're in a plane, you're not talking about a jet with 200 other people 35,000 feet up in the
No.
sky. So, what's that like?
I work in a small plane doing surveys. So we fly really low, and there's just 6 of us in the plane and 2 pilots. And we fly low over the water with the purpose of looking for whales and dolphins.
So you say low, but not so low that you bother their behavior, right?
No, no,
But
we
much
have,
slower than a
yes,
commercial jet.
yes, much, much lower than a commercial jet, but definitely high enough where our sound is not affecting their behavior.
Okay, so we do a lot of fun things because I'm a marine biologist too. And and we love the animals definitely, or we wouldn't do what we do. People oftentimes ask marine biologists or say to them, "Oh, I've always wanted to be a marine biologist." And do people ask you that question?
Yes, all the time.
So what do you say when people say, "Hey, I've always wanted to be a marine biologist"? What do you tell them?
I tell them to go for it. I absolutely love my job, and I think life is way too short to not have a job that you absolutely love. It has definitely been hard, and I've had some moments where I've questioned if this was the right path for me. But it's when you have those moments where you see a right whale or you have a humpback whale breach next to you that it makes it all worth it. And even in those moments where that isn't happening, it's the people I've gotten to meet and the places I've got to go, and some of my best friends I've met through this career field. And so it's been hard, and you learn a lot of stuff on the way, but definitely chase your dreams.
You said you learned a lot of stuff on the way. So we know that getting a good foundation in school with you use the science, you use the technology, you use the math for sure. What are some of the most important things you learned when you were in grade school? What were the subjects that you maybe thought would be important and the ones that maybe were unexpected?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought I would use math a lot more. I did calculus in college, and you learn math in school, and definitely that is something that I needed to know with this job. You do a lot of statistics, but it wasn't as much as I expected. Something that I didn't expect was I took psychology in school, and it was human psychology, and how that applies to animal behavior was really unexpected. When you learn about, why humans act the way that they do, you see that applies to whales and stuff in the wild, which is crazy. Or I took a lot of conservation and ecology classes in school, and I didn't think that that would necessarily apply to me because I knew I wanted to do marine biology. So I was like learning about forest animals and desert ecosystems, that's not going to help me. But it's really crazy how all ecosystems kind of work in the same way. So learning about those and learning about Missouri fish and species, actually applies to my job now working with whales and dolphins.
So you're originally from Missouri, which is where you are right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm currently in my sister's bedroom in Missouri.
So you're visiting home and you're letting us kind of peek and introduce yourself. So, I really appreciate you letting us do that. But how does
Absolutely.
Missouri is not on the coast, it's not near the ocean.
No,
How does somebody from
no.
Missouri who grew up in the middle of the country end up being a marine? How did you decide to be a marine biologist? We know how you got there, but you're sitting in your sister's bedroom and, at some point your own bedroom saying, oh, this is what I want to do. How does that happen?
Yes, I get that question asked all the time. So honestly, it starts with a solid foundation in education. So I started there, and then it went into getting practical experience. So finding those internships and meeting people and kind of just learning from them. I went to Mizzou, University of Missouri, so I didn't really know what kind of opportunities I would have in marine biology. So it took me going out and doing an internship, and then someone there was like, oh, well, you should look into this. And so I looked into that, and then someone, oh, well, you should try this next. And go to these websites. This is where they post the most marine biology jobs, or you should look up this scientist. That sounds like something, you would be interested in doing. So really just branching out and trying things and learning what I liked and what I didn't like, and seeing what doors would open and sometimes which doors would close. And it really just kind of got me to where I am now.
Out of all the things that you've done, can you pick the weirdest moment in your entire career? Something that you were out in the field looking at and you went, "Oh, I didn't see that coming."
One of the weirdest moments I had was being out in the field and seeing mating behavior of sperm whales. That is something that I don't know, maybe a handful of people have ever gotten to see, because sperm whales stay in really deep water. So most of the time you have to be pretty far off the coast to even see them. And then to see them at the surface, they die for such a long time that they'll only be at the surface for a couple minutes before they disappear again. So to get to see a group of them and some mating behaviors and some calves, that was really exciting and really unexpected.
That's really cool. Do you remember the first time you ever heard a humpback whale sing in the wild, not on a recording?
Yes, I was with you. I think that was a moment where I kind of freaked out. I probably cried too. I think you have a photo of it.
I do. I have photos.
Yes. That was definitely unexpected too, because you hear recordings of them and they sound really cool. But when you hear it, and we even heard it through the bottom of the boat, so not even putting a hydrophone in the water and listening through headphones, we could hear it through the water itself. And that was just so bizarre and so exciting. It gives you chills, made me tear up, because they make such weird noises you would not expect. And so when you think of a species, other than humans having their own language and then making these weird outer space noises, that was bizarre. That was absolutely, you're right. That was one of the top moments. I hadn't thought about that in a while. It was really cool.
I saw your picture recently, and I think you were with me during the year of the spaceship, weren't you? Isn't that what we dubbed the humpback whale song that year, when it was just the really bizarre noise?
What was it?
The year of the spaceship.
Yes.
That was the year. So I'll probably talk about that at some point. But humpback whales change their song every year a little bit, and yeah, that was probably the weirdest song I think I've heard them sing. But you got to listen to that, and then watch a lot of interns and students get to listen to that for the first time too.
Yes.
Okay, well,
absolutely.
I know that you can talk about all the cool things and the fun things we do. The science is super important, and I was going to ask you about the science, but you know what? Let's not. Let's save why what you do is not just fun, but incredibly important for people to study, for when people get with you, and then they can ask you that question: why should we care about all those things that you study, right?
Yes.
Okay, well listen, I'm gonna let you go. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll see you when you show up for our 1 hour live questions for Ask a Scientist.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.